Should we wait, Indu Mataji?
Sure, Mataji. We can wait.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. So we'll start. Vinita Mataji, can you start recording? Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much for joining another wonderful session on Tuesday for our ongoing series on Bhagavad Gita, 18 chapters in 18 weeks. Today, only 4 of you have joined. The rest are just the hosts. So no worries, maybe you can start with the Mangala Charan and then devotees might join. So today the class will be facilitated by Her Grace Indu Lekha Karuna Mataji, and she will do chapter number 17. So,
Chapter 17, Mataji? 16?
huh?
16, right?
Chapter 6.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Chapter 16.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It's chapter number 16, the divine and the demoniac. Yes, Indu Lekha Karuna Mataji, very eager to hear your session. Please take over. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Kirtida Sundari Mataji. And thank you all for joining. I know it's around the holiday time and the holiday week is about almost here, but still thank you all for joining in. So once again, we are almost reaching the end, and this is so exciting that we are able to complete this together. So let's get started with the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you all for coming in, and now we will start with the overview of our previous chapter, chapter 15, which was Purushottama Yoga. So chapter 15, if anyone remembers the acronym, you can either say it or type it in. Of course, I'm showing the slides, obviously everyone would know it. But if you remember, else I'll go ahead. Oh, home, perfect. Thank you so much, Aparna Mataji. That is perfect. So yes, the acronym for chapter 15 was home. And the four words that were used are, was it a hotel or a home? Second was on and over again. Third was Krishna, the maintainer. And fourth was the essence of the Vedanta. So in the first section, hotel or home, I think everyone would remember, because we talked about this in very great detail. Krishna was talking about this imperishable, huge banyan tree and its reflection, right? So he's talking about the banyan tree, and he's saying that we should not get attached to it. We need to make sure that we cut it with determination and surrender to the Lord. Why do we have to surrender to the Lord? And Krishna says that it is only then, only by surrendering to the Lord, would we be able to progress further, would we be able to attain the Supreme Lord, attain shelter of the Supreme Lord and his spiritual abode. And second section is on and on, over and over again. So in the second part, Krishna was talking about how the living beings, they are suffering because of their attachment to this banyan tree, to this material world, and how they constantly transmigrate from one species to another in this material world. And how can we get over it? It is only by Jnana Chakshu, a person who has that divine vision, the spiritual knowledge. They would be able to stop this repeated cycle of birth and death and go back to the spiritual world, because they would surrender to the Lord. In the third section, Krishna is talking about how he is the maintainer. So it's not just that Krishna tells us, oh, is this a hotel, is this a home, is this a permanent place, is this a temporary place for you to reach the ultimate goal. He's not just simply giving you the facts and talking about how vulnerable our position is, but he's also explaining how he is the supreme maintainer, how he is helping us in various different ways. So how he appears in the cosmic level, in the bodily platform, and how he is our constant companion, how he gives us remembrance, how he gives us forgetfulness, and he gives us the ultimate knowledge. So he maintains us at various different levels. And after that, the last section was the essence of the Vedanta that was given in 3 verses. So we have seen how Krishna first talks about in the 10th chapter. He has given us the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. So 4 verses that summarize the the entire content of the Bhagavad Gita. And over here we have just 3 verses where Krishna is talking about the 3 kinds of people that are there, who are the fallible people or the eternally nitya baddha, eternally conditioned souls, the infallible people or the eternally liberated souls. And above both of them, there is the Supreme Lord, who is the Purushottama. And just by knowing the Purushottama and understanding the Lord, what happens? Then all the knowledge that we should know, we will automatically gain that. So that was the 15th chapter. And from here, we are going to make our connection to chapter 16, which is divine and demoniac natures. Okay, so definitely it is a little scary chapter, and it will bring us to it will help us awaken, wake up. Actually, it's a wake up call. This chapter is a wake up call. So it is going to help us understand who we are, what we are, and some self introspection would be there after this chapter, hopefully. So this chapter describes so we talked about the banyan tree, right, in chapter 11. So once again, this chapter is talking about the kinds of fruits of the banyan tree. So obviously there are the good fruits, which are the divine qualities in people, and there are the bad fruits, which are the demoniac qualities. So that is what Krishna is going to talk about extensively in this chapter. So in just a single line, so this is still, we are still continuing on the banyan tree. So these the fruits can actually, fruits are the dharma, artha, kama, moksha, but they can be performed in these 2 natures, these 2 modes. They can be either in goodness or with divine qualities, or with demoniac qualities. So in a nutshell, this chapter, it talks about, of course, the 2 kinds of people, the 2 kinds of natures that people have. One is the divine people, divine nature, and anyone who is in the divine nature or the devika guna, that the guna itself, it will help elevate us in the tree, in the banyan tree, and take us even beyond this banyan tree. Whereas the asuric guna, or the demoniac propensities that we have, that is obviously going to take us lower and lower down to hell. Okay, so because why? Demoniac people, they do not have any good qualities. They want to live whimsically. They do not want to follow any regulations. So because of all these reasons, the demoniac people, they will attain lower birth and constantly remain in this material bondage until they would go down to hell, and they remain in the material world. But someone who has or possesses divine qualities, they live their lives in a regulated way. They follow the scriptural injunctions. They will gradually attain perfection. And that is what this entire chapter is going to talk about. So let's look at, so he's going to describe the qualities of saintly persons. He's going to describe the weaknesses of the demoniac people, and he is going to expose how we can systematically expose the attitudes and behavior that destroys our spirituality. So that is what we are talking about. And the acronym for this section is DOG. Okay, D-O-G. D for divine or demoniac, that is the first section, which covers verses 1 through 6. O for opinions and outlook of demons, and that covers verses from 17 to 20. And G for gates to hell, which is verses 21 to 24. So this is also another short chapter. Last chapter had just 20 verses, and this chapter has 24 verses. And those 24 verses will be solely focused on these qualities of that the human, that a person can possess. Okay, so why dog? Why dog for an acronym? So now here it says that the dog is an unpredictable animal. Some of us may not be able to relate to that because a dog is considered to be man's best friend, right? But he also has a reputation of being quite unpredictable. He can attack people, sometimes even when he's not provoked. So this kind of a contradictory behavior, this is an exact indication of what things are like in our time. So in the previous ages, there used to be a clear distinction between divine and demoniac people, because you know, okay, this person is clearly good and this clearly bad. And also in those times, they would live in little more farther at a distance from each other. They would live farther away from each other, and they don't mix between themselves. But now, what do we see? We see that that line has become almost, it has narrowed down to nothing. It has come down to the same person, right? Both, we have both divine qualities, and we see demoniac qualities also in us. Oh, and what are these demoniac qualities? When we analyze them, we would realize that they are things that everyone possesses. So we will see what those are. Okay, so let's go to the first section, which is divine or demoniac verses from 1 to 6. So in this, the first 3 verses, it's together in the Bhagavad Gita, and I would really recommend you read the purport. It's an extensive purport for just the first 3 verses itself. And so we, in the interest of time, we would just be looking at it on a very superficial level. So please go ahead and read it. It was wonderful. So Krishna starts with 26 different divine qualities, and he gives 6 demoniac qualities. So let's look at the first verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhir Jnana Yoga Vyavastita Dhanam Damascha Yajñascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, and then the rest follow in verses 2 and 3. And he says that these transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belongs to godly men endowed with divine nature. So these are some of the divine qualities that Krishna is talking about. 26 divine qualities, and all of them are listed here. We can take a brief look at it. Okay, so the first quality is that he's mentioned is fearlessness, abhayam. So how can we be fearless, right? We can be fearless when we have complete dependence on the Supreme Lord. He is there, he's going to take care of us. And we can see this in an example. So I'll quickly go through the slide because we have an example in the next slide. And there we will see. We will see how these apply to a person. So abhayam, it is when we are completely dependent on the Lord. And it is when we ensure that we are not going to take another material birth, right? We are going to go back to the spiritual world. And that can only come when we are, once again, completely surrendered to the Lord. The next one is purity of consciousness. How can we get purity of consciousness? By following prescribed rules. And third is cultivation of spiritual knowledge. Fourth is charity. So we know cultivation of spiritual knowledge. Oh, here also we are trying to do that in this forum too. Fourth is charity. Charity over here, it specifically says that it is for the grihastha. So we are talking about how this works, how these qualities can be represented in the, or can be characteristics of people belonging to the 4 different classes of society. Right? It can be for the brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyasi. What are some of these qualities? So he's saying that fearlessness is a quality that sannyasis need to have because they are completely under the mercy of the Lord. In the same way, charity is for grihasthas because grihasthas are the ones who are earning in the 4 classes. So because of that, grihasthas are the ones who have to give in charity. Same way, sacrifice. Okay, we'll look at self-control, sacrifice, self-control and sacrifice. All of them are specifically mentioned for the grihasthas, although the other classes also need to have self-control. Grihasthas, because they are living in a married life, they need to they need to make sure that they are not unnecessarily engaged in lusty activities or sex desires. So the next one is sacrifice. And once again, he says, because the grihasthas are the ones who are earning, the grihasthas are the only ones who can pay for very, very extensive sacrifices. However, in this age of Kali, the sacrifice that is recommended by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our Puranas is, the Kali Santarna Upanishad clearly says, it is the chanting of the holy name. Nama Sankirtan is the sacrifice for the Kali, age of Kali. Next is Vedic studies. Vedic studies are once again for, I said, 4 classes for the brahmacharis. Austerity. So it can be of body, mind, and tongue. And this has to once again be followed by all the classes, because we need to watch what we are thinking on a bodily, thinking in the mind, on a bodily platform, and what we are saying. Watching that is really, really difficult. We all know to a certain extent or hear about how we can practice different kinds of austerities for the body, but it is so important that we need to make sure that we do that austerity, and even for the mind, for what we are speaking, make sure that we control our thoughts and our words. Simplicity, that is the next one. Simplicity is about how we can be straightforward. Non-violence, where we neither through our words, it's not just about not killing animals, it's also that we should not hurt anyone through or cause pain to anyone through our words or through our action. Okay. And another thing about non-violence is that we should make sure that we are not checking another person's progressive growth. The next one is truthfulness. Truthfulness is not lying for one's own personal interest, that we all know. Freedom from anger, of course. When we have desires, then automatically we will also develop, and if it is not satisfied, anger develops, right? If it is satisfied, it causes for more, it gives a reason for more greed. But if it is not satisfied, it leads to anger. So we have to be free from anger. So first we have to be free from lusty desires. So we have to give up kama, then we can give up krodha also. Also in provocative situations, how do we react? The next one is renunciation. Renunciation talks about how we can not just renounce everything in this material world, but instead direct that in such a way that we are using everything for Krishna's service. Okay, so that is the real renunciation. Tranquility is unagitated, peaceful, and being equipoised. Aversion to fault finding unnecessarily. So I think we all know what that means. We should not find, simply complain about other people. Compassion for all living entities, that also is quite straightforward. Freedom from covetousness, where we need to make sure that we are not being greedy for someone else's possessions. Gentleness, of course, we need to be gentle towards all living entities. Modesty, where we have no abominable activities, no bad activities. And next is steady determination, where we are not agitated even in times of failure. Vigor is specifically, so once again for the 4 classes, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, vigor is specifically intended for the Kshatriyas who are meant to protect the rest of the classes. So forgiveness, of course, other offenses that are committed by others need to be forgiven. Fortitude, where we have both mental and emotional strength. And the last one is freedom. Cleanliness, of course, we all know what cleanliness is, both internal and external cleanliness. And again, in the next few sections, we will talk about it. freedom from envy. Of course, this is another big one. People who are envious of, because we are envious of the Lord, we are here. So by now, I think we all know that that is the main reason why we are in this material world. The next one is freedom from passion for honor, because we need to make sure that we respect others. So let us look at this with an example. And our example is that of Prahlad Maharaj. Okay. So we all, hopefully everyone is aware of the story of Prahlad Maharaj and his demonic father, Hiranyakashipu. So throughout this, maybe we can constantly go back and relate to these two characters. So Prahlad Maharaj, he was, even while he was in the womb of his mother, he was a devotee of the Lord. He heard instructions straight while he was in the womb, straight from Narada Muni. And though that was what he was practicing throughout his life. Okay, so this little boy who is just 5 years old, he is put through so much of torture and he has to face so many things in his life. And yet, how he displays what a perfect devotee should be like is the entire story of Prahlad Maharaj. So why is he such a reservoir of all transcendental qualities? It is because he is a pure devotee of the Lord. Okay, so some of the qualities, I couldn't put everything together, but he has, we can say that all the 26 qualities, or if we look, most of them are actually present in Prahlad Maharaj. He is a perfect example for almost all of them. So one was fearlessness. Of course, we see Prahlad Maharaj, he was put through so many different kinds of torture, and they tried to kill him in many different ways, but throughout he was constantly meditating on the Lord, and he was completely dependent of the Lord. He was oblivious of whatever is happening to his body, whatever situation he's put into the fire, he's thrown from the cliff, he was poked with sharp instruments, snakes were used to bite him, he was given poisonous food, doesn't matter what it is, he took complete shelter of the Lord. And he was fearless. It is not like he ever tried to run away or try to escape from the situation. No, he was completely fearless. So the next one is purity of consciousness. Of course, he was uncontaminated by whatever the teachers were teaching him in school. The teachers were talking about the dualities in this material world. They were talking about what is good and what is bad in this material world, and which had nothing to do with what Prahlad Maharaj already knew and what he already learned. And he made sure that he did not contaminate his thoughts or his actions or his mind by this knowledge, that this materialistic knowledge that his teachers were trying to teach him. So his consciousness was always pure. Cultivation of spiritual knowledge. So Prahlad Maharaj, of course, as we said in the very beginning, he received this knowledge from Narada Muni while he was in the womb of his mother. And next is charity. And I also included compassion to all living beings. We see that while Prahlad Maharaj was sent to the Gurukul, was sent with his teachers, all the other children, they started becoming very curious to know why Prahlad Maharaj is so different from them, although they are all studying in the same school, right? So Prahlad Maharaj immediately, he did not waste the opportunity. He took it up and immediately he started teaching the children what pure devotional service is. And he made them all into devotees. So that's when he gets sent back home again, because the teachers were so worried that the other children are also going to follow him. The next one is simplicity. So we see how Prahlad Maharaj, he's so straightforward in his dealings, even at the end when Lord Narsimha Dev appears and all the demigods, everyone is really afraid of this very ferocious form of Lord Narsimha Dev. Prahlad Maharaj, when he was told, he was waiting for his turn. He was waiting for all of them to actually first honor the Lord. And after that, then he wanted to do his service. But when Brahma says, no, my son, you go and try to pacify the Lord. The little boy, he was so straightforward. He was very simple. He immediately went to Lord Narsimha Dev and he offered prayers. So forgiveness. So at that time, what does Prahlad Maharaj do? Narsimha Dev has just killed his demonic father, and Narsimha Dev was so angry because of all the torture that Hiranyakashipu did to Prahlad Maharaj. So but what does Prahlad Maharaj do then? He immediately goes to Lord Narsimha Dev, and when Narsimha Dev asks him, what boon do you want? He says, I please beg forgiveness for my father's mistakes and for his grave offenses, and please liberate him. So he has not just forgiven his father, he is actually asking for a much better destination for his father. So that is the kind of nature that Prahlad Maharaj has. Truthfulness, of course, we know that he never distorted the truth. When Hiranyakashipu asked him, okay, tell me, my son Prahlad, okay, who is the greatest what is the greatest truth that you have learned, or what is the highest knowledge that you have learned? When Hiranyakashipu asked him, immediately Prahlad Maharaj did not try to sweet talk the king just because he's so powerful and he is very ferocious. No, he did not say anything. He directly spoke the truth. He did not distort it for his own safety. The next is freedom from anger. So irrespective of what situation or difficulty he was put into, he still never lost his temper. So just like how, and this say in the Bhagavatam, so many more qualities are there that we can use to explain, used to describe Prahlad Maharaj. These are just a few. But so in the Bhagavatam itself, it says that as all good qualities are always found existing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they also exist forever in his devotee, Prahlad Maharaj. So that is what the Bhagavatam itself says about Prahlad. So that was the divine qualities. Now we will look at the demoniac qualities, and please be patient with me because we are going to go through the demoniac qualities in quite some detail. So this is the Asura Sampada, the demoniac qualities that are there in passion and ignorance. So let us look at verse number 4. Dambho darpo abhimanascha krodha parushyameva cha ajnanam cha bhijatasya partha sampadamasurim. Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those in the demoniac nature. So these are 6 qualities that Krishna is listing now to talk about what a demonic person is like. Okay, so we need to know that the divine qualities that can be cultivated based on our varna, based on our ashrama. Okay, and the demoniac qualities, these causes bondage. These are the specific qualities that we need to watch out for. Okay, so nothing to worry. Even if we have demoniac qualities, if we interact with people who have divine qualities, then eventually we will also develop those divine qualities. So it is not like these are permanent or fixed in us. These are things that we can always change, because these are some of the things, especially anger, right? Who is able to control our temper? We are ignorant about many things. So let us see. This is known as the royal road to hell. That's what Krishna calls it. Actually, Srila Prabhupada also says that this is the royal road to hell. The 6 demonic qualities. So pride. What is pride? He says that it is wanting to make a show of religion, even if it is sinful. So we will look at each one of these with the example. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to look at the father, Hiranyakashipu, who is one of the great demons of his time. Next is arrogance. So where you have so much of wealth, you have education, and you are now proud about that. So that is arrogance. Conceit is where we want to be worshipped instead of the Lord being worshipped. So we want to be worshipped by others. That's how Srila Prabhupada has explained that. Anger, where we get angry over even the slightest of things, right? Over trifles. Harshness, where we are using rough language in front of others. Ignorance, which is the lack of discrimination, how we are acting whimsically. So let us see this with our example of Hiranyakashipu. So Hiranyakashipu had, of course, all of these qualities. Okay. The word Hiranyakashipu itself, Hiranya means gold and Kashipu means soft cushion. Okay, so this is a bedding, soft cushion that is used for sense gratification. So Hiranyakashipu is only interested in sense enjoyment, in sense pleasure, and in gold, of course, all the wealth of the whole world. He becomes the ruler of the 3 worlds. So while Prahlad Maharaj is endowed with all these beautiful divine qualities, Hiranyakashipu, he, although being such a great scholar, he has all of the demonic qualities. So let's see. Pride. Hiranyakashipu, he did such great austerity, okay, and he was performing such great penance in such a way that all of them were being suffocated by the level of austerity that he was performing. But what was it for? It was to become invincible. It was for to destroy Lord Vishnu himself. So it was for a very evil purpose. And for that reason, he twisted things up and he performed this austerity. So he was proud that he was transgressing whatever Vedic regulation was given. Arrogance. So we can see how he becomes the master of the 3 worlds, and there he enjoyed all the power, because everyone, even the demigods, would have to surrender to him. They have to worship him. He was enjoying the wealth of all the 3 worlds. He was in great luxury, and because of that, he was always drunk. Okay. Next is conceit. Of course, we see that he obviously wanted to be worshipped by everyone. He wanted to stop the worship of Lord Vishnu. So he was completely envious. Throughout, we will see how he is very envious of the Lord. And he orders that nobody from here on, everyone has to worship me and not the Lord. Anger. So Prahlad, the little child, a 5-year-old kid, he comes and he talks to him, and he's sitting so nicely and he's talking to him such high philosophy. But just because he spoke about the Lord and something that is against Hiranyakashipu's orders, he decided that no, this boy is really bad and he has to be killed. I do not want him with me. He is Vishnu's agent, Lord Vishnu's agent. So that's why he decides that he wants to kill him. Harshness. We see how he uses very, very harsh words to address Prahlad Maharaj, and how he decides that, okay, you have to be killed. He's telling his guards right in front of a full assembly. He was asking his servants to go take him and kill him. Ignorance. Is that in spite of being, so I'm sorry for that, you can't see it. In spite of being very well versed and knowledgeable, Hiranyakashipu, he acted in ways that are completely whimsical. He wanted to follow. He had so much of knowledge of all the philosophy we hear in the seventh canto. In the beginning, after Hiranyaksha is killed, Hiranyakashipu speaks very, very wise words. He speaks very wise words to his family, his mother, and all of them who are grieving. He tells them how we are not this body, we are the soul. He talks perfect Sankhya philosophy. But the thing is, when it came to applying it to his life, he decided against it, right? He was very whimsical. He wanted to act on his own might and his own whatever he felt was right, not what is given in the Shastras. So similarly, we have the example of course, Ravana, Shishupal, and others who were always envious of the Lord. So that is verse 4. And after that, we have 2 more verses in the first section. So after hearing all these bad demoniac qualities, Arjuna starts feeling a little worried. He starts lamenting. So immediately Krishna understands what the reason for Arjuna's lamentation is. And immediately he says, Arjuna is wondering, oh, am I demoniac? Am I, because I'm here on the battlefield and I want to kill my own family members. So this is Arjuna's predicament, Arjuna's worry. So Krishna says, Arjuna, you do not have to worry about anything. He says, Ma Shucha, do not worry, O son of Pandu, because you are born with divine qualities. So these divine qualities have already been explained. And now Krishna, he decides that, okay, I maybe did not describe the demoniac qualities in detail. That is why Arjuna has this confusion. So let me explain it in detail. And he begins to explain that. That is what we are going to cover in the next section. Before that, let us quickly look at a life lesson. So here Krishna is telling Arjuna very clearly that you are born of divine nature. You are not demoniac in any way. So he's assuring Arjuna, he's giving that reassurance to Arjuna that you have divine qualities. But how about us? Now we have to do some self-introspection. So we can start thinking, where do we fit in? What is our position as of now? And we will know more in the next section. So let us go there. The next section is O for DOG. So we just have 3 sections this time. O for opinions and outlook of demons. This is from verses 7 to 20. And this is going to talk about many things that we see in our day-to-day life. So let us look at this. So now, Arjuna, Krishna is saying, Arjuna, you are of divine nature. Now Krishna is going to distinguish between the activities, the mentality, what are the qualities of a person who has demoniac propensities. So first is that they do not know how to act. Okay, so this is, I think, verse 7 to 9. They do not know how to act, which is what to do and what not to do. They are not clean either internally or externally. He's saying that they have no good behavior and they are not truthful. Okay, and again he says that they decide, this is how they are concluding that this is their conclusion of the world. They say that the world is false, that it doesn't have any foundation and there is no God in control. This is how they are going to facilitate their own desires by saying, okay, there is no foundation for this world, something happened here, okay, all these jivas came in, and so we are born of material nature, so we can continue in that material nature. This is the kind of concocted philosophy that they come up with. They say there is no God in control. obviously they do not believe in a controller, they do not believe in the presence of Lord. And they say that, oh, this whole, some big, just like how we have different theories that float around. So they also say that this world, something came, particles came together and this world appeared. So it has come without any cause. And they say that this is produced of sex desire and lust. So like this, they will have some or the other kind of um, uh, what do we say? They have their own logic behind or reasoning behind everything in this world. And that's how they can justify all the bad actions that they are doing. So in this way, they start engaging in unbeneficial, horrible work that is meant to destroy this world. Like what we see, we see how animal killing has become so prevalent. We see how nuclear weapons are being have been developed. We see how people are constantly fighting amongst themselves. Why? Because they all are under the impression that we are here with this body, and we need to make sure that we enjoy in this body up till the very end. And we also have the feeling that, oh, okay, of course, extend this life as much as we can, because we do not realize that we are the soul and not this body. This body may fall anytime. This body is just temporary. They cannot come to that conclusion. They cannot come to terms with the fact that this is a temporary world, this is a temporary body that we have been given with, and our goal is much higher than that. Now, they are completely lost to themselves. So because of that, now let us see what kind of activities they are involved in. So some of the tendencies of the people, of these demoniac people, are that they take shelter of their thirst for, that's insatiable thirst for sense enjoyment. Okay, they are absorbed in conceit, they are absorbed in false prestige, and they are so illusioned that they are attracted to all these impermanent things, and they are sworn to unclean vows. As we can see in the picture, these are all the bad activities that they get involved in. They are attracted to wine, they are attracted to gambling, they are attracted to women, meat eating, all the bad activities. What is their attitude? They believe that the ultimate goal of life is to gratify our senses. So they constantly are engaged in so much of activity and so much of anxiety until the very end of their life. So that is their attitude, that we need to keep on earning money and make as much money as possible. So for this, we see so many people, and we also might have, like, okay, we don't know when to stop, how much is enough for us, right? We always have that confusion. What is the kind of engagement that the demoniac people are involved in? They are bound by a network of so many desires, thousands and thousands of desires these people have. It is called asha pasha. And they are absorbed in lust. They are absorbed in anger. And obviously, in order to do whatever sense gratification that they need and how much of money they need to accumulate, they try to start securing money through illegal means, because whether it is through fair means or unfair means doesn't make any difference to them. So the laws of nature that we need to understand. We think that, okay, we can go on extending our life, but Srila Prabhupada mentions in one of the purports that the laws of nature do not allow for even a second beyond what one is destined to enjoy. Okay, we do not realize that there is a witness for every action that we are doing. All the demoniac activities that we are doing is being watched by the super soul, the Paramatma within our heart. So such a person, he feels that he can do anything. There is no restriction for him, right? We have the restriction only from the government, the police, the judge, the law. These are what restricts them. But otherwise, they do not realize that constantly there is a person who is watching us. Every single action of ours is being monitored. So because of that, they are constantly thinking of gaining wealth. So the demoniac person will say, oh, I have earned so much. This is from text 13 to 15. He says, I have so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future. And he'll say that I have killed these enemies of mine, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect. I am powerful. I am happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I'll give some charity, and then I shall enjoy. So in this way, the person is completely deluded by ignorance. So then what is the destination of such a person? Let us find out. Okay. So such a person, he is so strongly attached to so many different sense enjoyments that he is completely bound by this Maya, Moha Jala, this network of illusion, and they fall down. Where do they fall down to? Because of unrestricted sense enjoyment, ultimately they also fall down to an unclean hell. So why is that? Because they have completely disregarded all the rules and regulations, avidhi purvakam. So then what is the result? The result is that they become envious. They start taking shelter of their false ego. They think that, oh, we are very strong, and they have so much of pride and lust and anger, and so they are so bewildered, and they become envious of the Supreme Lord. They become envious of Krishna, and Krishna is seated in our hearts, in our bodies, in all the other beings. So they start becoming envious of that Supreme Lord, and they blaspheme true religion. So then what does Krishna say? Krishna says, this is the kind of treatment that I am going to give these demoniac people. And he says very clearly, he will say that put them perpetually, I perpetually cast these envious people, the cruel people, and the lowest among men into the ocean of material existence in various demoniac species of life. And they will continue to attain repeated birth and death in demoniac species. And he says that such fools can never approach me. Gradually, they will sink down to the lowest level of life, lowest status of life. Okay, so we need to understand that what activities we do play a very important role, because that determines what our reactions are. Of course, by now, this is very, very thoroughly embedded in our hearts that yes, our actions do matter. That will give us our reactions. And who is the one who decides what kind of a body we get? So each and every individual soul is placed in a particular kind of a body based on the judgment of the Supreme Lord. It is by higher powers that this is decided. What kind of a body will a particular soul get? So those who have this asuric propensities, these demoniac propensities, they are not going to easily get liberation. And once we enter into this deep hole of just having demoniac qualities, then what happens is it becomes extremely difficult for us to slowly try to go out, get out of it, right? Be freed from it, because we get into this network of illusion. We have so much in this kind of feel that, oh, we have so much of pride, we become so arrogant and so envious that it kind of blinds us, and we constantly continue to be in that state. So that demoniac, the people with demoniac natures, it's very difficult for people with demoniac natures. It's very difficult for them to get back up and rise up in the ladder. So that's why Krishna says he's just going to perpetually, they will continue to be in this, take birth in life after life in one demoniac species, or, go down to the lower levels. So that is the pathetic situation of such a person. Now let us see what is the life lesson. And this was a very sweet quote by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. And he was saying that there has never been a prison built by man that people haven't figured out how to escape, right? We see how even from the most tightest security, people will constantly try by some means or the other to escape. But what kind of a prison Krishna has created? Radhanath Maharaj says, there are no walls, no guards, and although everyone is suffering in this world, no one wants to get out. So this is the most secure kind of a prison, where there are no guards, there's nobody, but still each one of us is so happy over here. We are suffering, but still we are happy. We want to remain here. We want to continue to be here and see what's going to happen next. What is going to come next? That's just our thought. Oh, how much more can I get? Our desires become so unlimited over here. So that is something we all need to think about and try to break free from this prison house of this material world. So for that, Krishna is telling us, this is the last section from verses 21 to 24. Krishna talks about the 3 gates to hell. Now, this is very important, because only by getting free from this can we go back, right? So Krishna says that in this last section, he says that Trividham narakasyedyam dvaram nasanamatmana kama krodhas tatha lobhas tasmad etatrayam tyajit. There are 3 gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. So that is 16.21. And in 16.22, Krishna says, then one can act conducive to self-realization and attain the supreme destination. So he is saying we have to give up these 3 gateways to hell: lust, anger, and greed. So when we escape from these 3 gates, then we would be able to attain our ultimate goal, which is the supreme world, which was explained in the previous chapter. Krishna has given us a glimpse of what his world looks like. So let us try to escape and break free from these 3 gates. So let us see what the importance is and how we can act. What is the right way? Excuse me. So he says that in 16.23, he will say, okay, to break free, we need to make sure that we are acting in the right way. Okay. And here he says, how do we do that? So he says there are 2 things. One is, he starts with a negative note. He says that a person who discards spiritual injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection, nor happiness, nor the supreme destination. So he starts on a negative note. You cannot disregard the injunctions from the Shastras. Make sure Shastra has to be our basis. And so in 24, then Krishna says, Tasma shastram pramanam te karya vyavastitau jnatva shastram vedhanoktam karma kartum iharhasi. One should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. So we need to make sure that from the evidence of the scripture, only can we understand what our duty is. What should we do and what should we not do? Only by knowing what the regulations of the scriptures are, would we be able to act in a way that we can gradually make progress, gradually be elevated. So all the rules and all the regulations are meant for only one thing. They are all meant for knowing Krishna. And this is mentioned in the Vedas. So everything that we are doing ultimately is for knowing the Lord. In the previous chapter also, Mataji was saying that we need to make sure that we understand the Lord. One who understands the Lord, then one who understands Purushottama, then all the knowledge will automatically come to them. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has made it so easy for us, where he's saying that just chant the holy names of the Lord. Just by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we would be able to get all that knowledge, everything that is mentioned in we would be in line and following all the rules and regulations of the Vedas. Well, the good thing about Shastra, okay, or why we have to consult the Shastra, is because it is without the 4 principal defects. All the conditioned souls have 4 defects, right? We have imperfect senses, we have the cheating propensity, we commit mistakes, and we are illusioned. So these 4 principal defects are there in all conditioned lives, and that is our greatest disqualification. When what is it this why does this disqualify us? Because we are imperfect, we cannot put together a shastra or put together rules and regulations that are perfect, right? Whereas the shastra, it is beyond that. So the rules and regulations that are described in the shastra, because they are above all these 4 defects, we have to accept them. And that's why all the previous acharyas have also accepted the shastras. So in our human society, we have a tendency where we don't want to follow any principles. We don't want to follow the rules. We don't want to be under someone's, under the control of someone, right? And that is actually where we are falling down. That is the cause of our fall down. Because we make the offense that we don't want to be under the authority of the Supreme Lord, under the authority of Krishna. Because of that, we decide that, nope, I want to do things on my own. And that's why we have fallen down. That's why we have taken this birth. And that is why we continue to remain in this human life or in this material world. So this is our greatest offense. And let us try to clear that. Let us try to get over it. So as long as we continue to commit this offense, Maya is going to, this material world and all the material energy is going to bind us in this world. So, and it will constantly give us the 3 miseries that we can experience in this world. So let us see, we have so many examples. Hiranyakashipu, he was constantly envious. He wanted to act whimsically. He did not want to follow what is there in the Shastras. So that is the one difference between divine and demoniac beings, right? We have the devas and the demigods and the demons. Both of them have the same father, right? Both of them are sons, both are sons of the Prajapati. How come one is divine and others have demoniac nature? That's because one is the demigods are ready to follow the injunctions from the Shastras. They are ready to follow the authority of the Lord, and they are ready to be his servants. Whereas the demons, they do not want to follow any of this. They just want to act according to whatever pleases them, what they feel is best for them. So they have disregarded the Shastras, and that's why they have become demoniac. So that is the basis. That is the reason why they have, or we all have these demoniac qualities. So these hellish planets, and they are not eternal prison houses for us, for these souls. They are actually places of for reformation, like what they say, right? That if a murderer is punished and is given not life imprisonment, but if is given capital punishment, then that murderer would have to face less intense, not that intense punishment when he goes to the hellish planets. So we need to understand that all those hellish planets are intended for us to become reformed, so that we can take little better birth the next time, so that we can remember, so that we can realign ourselves with what our ultimate goal is. So if we want to avoid this kind of shock treatment that the hellish planets would give us, then we need to make sure that we follow the scriptures. The scriptures is the guidebook for us to attain perfection. That is the guidebook for us to attain purity. So by what does it do? What does the scriptures help us with? The scriptures will tell us how to live, right? How do we have to act in a regulated lifestyle? And how do we transform ourselves from being selfish to selfless, right? From being lusty to having pure love for Krishna. How to be more cooperative among all the beings. So let us see what is the life lesson that we can learn here. It is that we need to make sure that we give up the mentality of accepting what is convenient. For all of us, this is something that we generally have a tendency to do. Our tendency is to accept what is easy or what is convenient for us, and we will reject the rest. We will pretend like we do not even see that part of it, right? So we have to try to give up that mentality and accept the Shastras, accept the scriptures for what it is. By accepting the scriptures, what do? We slowly learn how to follow the rules and regulations given in the scriptures, right? So there might be some rules that are easy for us to follow, and there might be some that are a little more difficult. But we need to make sure that we do both. We follow the injunctions given there. And by doing that, what happens? We understand who Krishna is, right? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has made it so much easier for us. He has directly given us the holy name and how to engage ourselves in the devotional service. So we have to understand who the Supreme Lord Krishna is. And from understanding, slowly we can engage in Krishna's service. So by knowing who the Lord is, then we would start slow performing services to the Lord, practice devotional service, and we will slowly rise to Krishna consciousness, to pure love for the Supreme Lord. So let us try to follow this path. We don't want to get to the hellish planets. We don't want to follow the demoniac path. We want to go in the right path. That's why we are all here. And let us try to imbibe the divine qualities and give up all the demoniac propensities in us. So with this, let us go to our chart. Okay. The 16th chapter had covered three topics. The acronym was DOG, dog, D for divine or demoniac. In divine or demoniac, we covered the 26 divine qualities and the 6 demoniac qualities. The 26 divine qualities, these are some of them. We have fearlessness, charity, self-control, simplicity, compassion, forgiveness, cleanliness. Sorry for that spelling. And the 6 demoniac qualities are pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. O was for further. Krishna then tries to explain to Arjuna what the demoniac people are like, right? What they think of the world, how they behave, what are their activities, and what is the end result of such activities, and how does Krishna treat them in this finally. What does Krishna think? What is Krishna going to do? He is going to perpetually leave them in this material world, or they can continue to take birth in demoniac families or in demoniac bodies, and go eventually to the lowest status of life. And in the last section, which are the 3 gates to hell, G for gates to hell, Krishna talks about how the 3 gates to hell are lust, anger, and greed, and we need to give up the lust, anger, and greed, or those propensities, and try to follow the shastric injunctions, follow the scriptures. By following the scriptures, we will start to follow the rules and regulations that are provided in the scriptures, and we will slowly advance and become elevated to understand what our true position is and understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Oh, thank you for your patient listening. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much. Such a beautiful class. Really, it was a nice comparison of the divine and the demoniac qualities. And then also, as you were explaining, it was also interesting for us to do a self-analysis. Thank you so much for such a comprehensive and such a clear explanation of all these verses. Very, very practical understanding with the story of Hiranyakashipu and Prahalad. Thank you so much, Mataji. I loved everything that you shared, the quotes, the realizations, everything was very beautiful. Hare Krishna. And anyone has any questions or comments for our Indu Mataji, please go ahead and we can address them. You can raise hands, you can chat. Yeah. And Arundhati Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Dandavat pranams, Sai Srila Prabhupada. Such a beautiful class with amazing examples. I really love the way you explained. Mataji, this is just my thought which is coming into my mind. So I don't know why Krishna is making us forget about how we suffered in our previous life. See, if I remember how I suffered in my mom's womb before coming onto this universe, or how I suffered in the hellish planets, I probably don't do the mistakes again. That's my realization, or not realization. It would be my wake-up call, constantly remembering how we suffered. We don't want to go through that phase again. And probably that will make us or drive us towards devotion consistently. That's my thought. Having said that, I'm just wondering why Krishna put us or made us to forget all our suffering, what we went through, how many lifetimes we went through in the past.
Hare Krishna, Arundhati Mataji, Dandavat pranam. Yes, Mataji, very valid question. Of course, why does Krishna, and repeatedly we hear many answers. I mean, the consistent answer is that definitely Krishna wants us to forget some of these things because it is sometimes really, really painful, right? But to a pure devotee of his, to someone who has progressed so much in devotional service, Krishna also makes sure that he remembers his past life, like Bharat Maharaj. The story of Bharat Maharaj tells us that even while he was in his dear body in the next life, he remembered his past. And so that's why he goes back to the same place where he could get the association of the sages, right? So that was in his special case. In the same way, Krishna gives us, like what Mataji had said last time, Krishna gives us both remembrance and forgetfulness. So the best part is he doesn't make us remember all these sufferings that we had to go through or what all happened, but he gives us remembrance to a certain extent of he gives us remembrance of our spiritual progress in our past lives. That's why automatically we start, like we say, right, if we have progressed till a certain level in our previous life, we start from that. We don't have to start from scratch again in our next life. We start from that particular place in this life. So he is always there helping us. Forgetfulness is a good thing to a certain extent, because without forgetfulness we would remember so many hellish things that had happened, or so many really bad things that would have happened. Like, okay, if I had taken a body of a cockroach or a mosquito, I would remember that even in this life. So that is a very terrifying experience. So I think that is another reason. Of course, we can put it in better words. Definitely, both are given by Krishna, and forgetfulness of it is because of our forgetfulness that we have come into this material world itself, right? We forgot that we are servants of Krishna. So he wants us to enjoy. We want, because that was our original desire. So he wants us, okay, you want to enjoy, you can enjoy in this reflection, in this material world to a certain extent. And after that, slowly, Krishna, as a super soul, he's always residing in us. So he will constantly try to pull us towards him. So that's what I think. But definitely, I think Matajis would be able to put it in much, much better words. Preeti Vilasni Mataji and Kirtida Sundari Mataji.
I think that was an excellent answer, Mataji. You put it in the right words. Just adding on to it is that definitely we do have certain impressions. Even whatever we have undergone in the hellish planets, we may not remember everything in great detail, but still the impression is there. So, for example, when you are, you have certain past life impressions, certain fears. If you do something wrong intentionally, there is a fear that arises in the heart. So Krishna helps in various ways by giving those impressions, retaining impressions, but he may not retain the memory as such, the complete memory, because if there is too much memory of every single detail, it's only confusion and anxiety. So just the impressions stay. That's how it is, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Yes, those two are excellent answers. Yeah, but Bharat Maharaj is a very highly elevated soul. He was in the stage of Bhava. I'm a most fallen soul, Mataji. I'm a sinner. So for people like me, I think remembering that suffering will keep me on the track. Constant remembrance. That's my personal opinion. Then only I will be like, oh, Krishna. Then only I will remember Krishna. Otherwise, forgetful. I'm forgetting Krishna also. I know that I consistently should remember Krishna whole day, but it's not happening. I'm forgetting. I'm enjoying this material world. I'm falling into this Maya illusion. That's where I'm just talking about myself. You all are in a different level. That's where I am, Mataji. I will try, but
Yeah, and
yes.
Mataji, all of us are in the same level. And the thing is, that's why, the final verse talks about the importance of reading scripture, because the scripture does give us great detailed explanation of what really happens in the hellish planets and what punishment is for what activity. So when we have the faith in scriptures, we will automatically believe everything. And so we will refrain ourselves from doing that, right? So at least we can try to refrain. So not necessarily we should have the memory, but at least we have the information from scripture. So maybe that will also help us. And we are all constantly falling in Maya every second. It's impossible to remember Krishna all the time. I mean, at least in our conditioned state, because we are practicing devotees, we are still taking baby steps in our sadhana bhakti. But eventually, someday, by the mercy of Krishna, we should be able to reach a better position. We can just pray for it, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Maybe, reading that particular part of the scriptures, how the suffering would be in hellish planets, that might be helpful. Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Rundati Mataji. Even I would like to add, it's again, we are an illusion if we think that if I remember my past, then I'll be more connected to Krishna. Again, it's an illusion. It might be possible that our past is so horrifying, as indu, lekha, karuna Mataji was saying, that we don't even want to come near to Krishna. So you never know in what situation we are in. So Prabhupada always used to say, forget about whatever happened. You know where you are now. Better try to work from now. Whatever has happened has happened. We are already bearing the karmas of our past. So why to worry what happened in my past? We know through scriptures that we have been in this circle of life of birth and death from time immemorial. So don't worry about what had happened. You know that you are here itself is the conclusion that we have never gone back. Otherwise, yadhama nirvartante tardhama paramamama. Yeah, Krishna says, if you come to Maya mode, you will never come back. We are here itself means that we have never gone back. So let's focus on going back by doing some devotional service sincerely with dedication and determination, rather just pondering upon that who I was in my past, what I did, why I'm bearing those karmas. No, we should not even think of that. That's what, the real thing is.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Yeah, just come into the present and focus on the devotional service. Yes, Mataji, I will try my best. Hare Krishna.
True.
Hare Krishna. If there are
Mataji, there is one question in chat.
does chanting help to get over lust, anger, and greed? Mataji, do you want to directly answer that? Of course, yes, definitely. Yes. So what they are saying is, here, what is being told in the 16th chapter is that through the knowledge from the scriptures, we would know what our rules are, what the regulations are. We would know how to restrict ourselves from being overly engaged in sense gratification, right? So by that, that is the first step. And from that, we will through the shastras itself, we would know that the supreme Lord is the ultimate goal, and we can start working towards that. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving us the chanting of the holy name as a shortcut, as the easy way of actually following all of this. So once we start chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we are slowly going to purify our consciousness. So by purifying our consciousness, we get rid of all these, all the contaminations that are there. We get rid of lust, we get rid of anger and greed. One leads to the other. So everything starts from lust, right? Anger, greed, all of that is starting from our intense desire and hankering for something or the other in this material world. So definitely by chanting, all those tendencies start weakening. Those the desire for material things start reducing. That we can definitely see. And by chanting a certain number of rounds every day, by making it more and more regulated, definitely you will see progress and you will see a reduction. Of course, if you ask me personally, have I been able to get rid of anger? I cannot say. We do chant, but yeah, the demoniac propensities are still there. We have a long way to go, and hopefully over time it will. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna Mataji, just a very wonderful class and very, very wonderful question answer session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sangi Mataji. Would you like to say anything about chanting?
Yeah. So chanting is the shortcut and there is no other shortcut to chanting. So basically everything is boiled down to chanting, and that's the we have been reading in the during the Damodar Arati programs, the one quote that in Kali Yuga everything is a ocean of faults, but there is one good thing is that chanting, because by this we can get rid of the material bondage and go to transcendental kingdom, which is very, very hard in the other yugas, and compared to the amount of effort that we have to take, and so this is almost negligible, and only thing to chant properly, everything else have to be proper, like being in association, being in constant enthusiasm, and doing some service to please the Lord and the devotees. All these things will make our chanting more fixed and stable. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Lalitangi Mataji, for giving us your very valuable association, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. I've been, listening to you and Kirtida Mataji and Preeti Vilasini Mataji. Such wonderful classes with so many life lessons. It's very, very engaging. All three of you are amazing. You're giving all your hard work and effort, and it is so interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. All glories to Bhakti Sangha and devotees like you who are making this possible, Mataji.
And thanks to your series also, Mataji, for setting a guideline for us. It was amazing, and it was the standard.
Shall we end, Mataji?
Okay. So thank you all so much again for your very active participation, and we are waiting for your association again next week with another beautiful chapter, and then we just have 2 more left. So please attend and give us your association. Yeah, so Indu Mataji, you're getting messages saying that they got the answers, and they're thanking you, Mataji, and for the wonderful class. So thank you all so much. So we'll meet again with the final 2 chapters, which is 17 and 18 chapters, and then we'll finish the Bhagavad Gita with all of you. So we're really excited for the next part as well. Thank you, Indulekha Mataji, for such an engrossing session. We'll meet again next week. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Her Grace Indulekha Karuna Mataji ki jai. All glories to all the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna, all devotees.